Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 216 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 3 days, just a buck. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. We just added a new feature. We're doing a forum Q&A with Coach Boyle where you can get on kind of on a Zoom meeting call. And we're going to go over some forum topics with Coach Boyle and, ask him any questions you want. So you can check that out at StrengthCoach.com. All right, I'm your host, Anthony Renna, and the show notes are located at ContinueFit.com. Want to get in touch with me? Shoot me an email to ContinueFit@gmail.com. A quick reminder about the Success Series that I did, 5 audio interviews on achieving success in the fitness business with Coach Boyle, Geraldine Cooper-Smith, Alan Cosgrove, Don Saladino, and Ron McKeefrey. You can listen for free. You just need to sign up at ContinueFit.com. Check it out and let me know what you think. All right, today on the Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about a thread called Complete Sports Conditioning Physiological Errors. One of our members, Brent Welch, he called Coach Boyle out on a couple physiological errors that he saw. Also, we talked about understanding the decline of youth sports. That and much more coming up on the Coach's Corner in a little while. For the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment, Rachel Cosgrove will discuss how you are the product of the 5 people you hang around most with. So, great one from Rachel today. For the Functional Movement System segment, Frank Dolan finishes his series up on using the functional capacity screen in his business. Great stuff from Frank there too. For the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Mike McKay. Mike's a veteran and a strength coach who is the founder of the Heroes Movement. So he's going to tell us all about the Heroes Movement, how it's helping our veterans sustain a healthy lifestyle once they get out, working with trainers across the country to match veterans with trainers, guidelines for working with post-traumatic stress disorder, the Veterans Day Challenge coming up that he's doing, and so much more. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Coach, how you doing?
Great, Anthony. How are you?
Doing all right, hanging in there. Hockey started, so, for me, it's, first preseason game last night. It was fun.
The Rangers, of course, had their first preseason game. That is what you're discussing.
Well, the Islanders, actually.
Oh, the Islanders. Oh,
yeah, but it was at the Garden, so. And I saw our friend Reg Grant and a couple other people there. So, yeah, good times, fun.
Nice. I have to I got to keep following so I can keep an eye on our pro group guys. One of our guys, Mike Vecchione, had his scored for Philly the other night, so that's good. It's a good start.
Nice, good job. All right, Coach. Actually, let's start out with there was a thread, and we had it in the newsletter. We talked about this. Somebody started, I think, Brent Welch, Complete Sports Conditioning Physiological Errors, and you had mentioned that you were waiting for, you had figured this was coming, someone was going to bring something up. Can you just give us an overview of some of the things maybe that you felt like you're learning, because you had said in the thread, like, hey, okay, tell me this, and this. What do you think of this? I just want to make sure we're clear, and let's make sure we're all on the same page and where those quote-unquote errors are. Talk to me about this thread and give us an overview.
So the basic thing is that Brent, which it was awesome. I just posted again on that thread this morning. I had mentioned that there was some things maybe exactly accurate, or maybe, and it was, I think I said it in the, as I went later on in the thread, maybe my bias, my anti-long, slow distance bias shows through a little too strongly in my statements because, and I think I said it at the beginning, I tried to make it pretty clear that, hey, I'm really not a scientist. I'm not a cardiovascular medicine person. So he did a really good job of maybe explaining some of the things that might have been even a little bit in error, which I think is great. I talked to Pat Beath the other day because we filmed, not the plug, but we filmed a complete core conditioning one the other day. So we spent about 8 hours at MBSC, or 7 hours, filming that. And one of the things that I said is that I think this thread might make like a good PDF to send out to people who bought the product, because it's I think it's good to get, I don't know, taken to task or whatever a little bit in terms of someone saying, hey, because for someone like me, the times when this has happened are times that I've really learned a lot. The last time this happened that I can really remember, and it was much more significant, was a guy years ago started peppering me about core stuff and about transverse abdominis. And the truth of the matter was I had no idea what he was talking about. And I realized that in some ways, well, geez, I have no idea what I'm talking about either. And I mean, we were still at like the sit-ups and crunches and twisting stuff. And, we were breaking, at that time, we were breaking our core down into like, there was flexion-based core and rotation-based core and lateral core, and almost everything we were doing was moving. You know what I mean? It was so, like, look at some of those old core presentations that I did. They were horrible. But I think that's part of the process of learning, is that you need to have somebody like this who, and I think Brent is a university professor in England or a teacher or something like that, and to have somebody come back and say, hey, these are areas where you could be more clear. These are areas where you maybe overstated something. And I'm looking, intervals are better for developing VO2 max than his steady state training. And one of the things that he said is that's not really true. They're about equal. So intervals are equal to steady state training. And as I said to him kind of in the rebuttal piece, if we look at the orthopedic cost of steady state training, I still think, and the specificity, there's a lot of reasons why I still believe intervals are superior. But as he was saying, to just say that intervals are better for developing VO2 max than steady state, his feeling is that the research doesn't indicate that. It just shows that they may do as good a job. And so when you look at like the Jabala study, it's one of those, well, you can get the same benefit from, and this is the reality, and I probably should have said it that way, you get the same benefit from 2 minutes of work as you do from 20, but you don't get more benefit. But you could look at it and think you get 10 times more value for the work put in. I could say that. Yeah. And that would be accurate, because in one situation you're putting in 20 minutes of work, and in the other you're putting in 2. Now it's 2 obviously much more concentrated, 2 much more intense, but from an aerobic perspective, the benefit is the same. Like I would look at that and say that shows me that intervals are way better. But when you look at the result of the research study, that's not what the research says. So I do think there's a little bit of the pick and fly shit out of the pepper thing, but I think that's good. I have no problem with kind of getting my wrist slapped a little bit and someone like Brent saying, hey, you're not entirely accurate here and you should be more accurate.
Mike, wasn't Tabata the original guy? I remember Mark Smith was talking about this years ago when he was talking about doing, like taking that idea when the Tabata study had originally, weren't they comparing what they were doing with the Tabatas in that 4 minutes to some, where they were working with some endurance athletes, and it did come out. Mark was saying the same thing. It's better, but it's equal. So it's better from the perspective of, hey, wouldn't you rather do 4 minutes instead of 45? And like you said, the orthopedic cost of that type of stuff can obviously over time, with overuse, et cetera. So wasn't Tabata like that too? Wasn't that part of why they were doing it?
Almost exactly the same, yeah. But the thing in the Tabata study, and this is where, again, guys, this is where Brent did a really good job. He said they did do 1 day of steady state training in addition to the intervals. And that may have some bearing on this in terms of, and then you get into sort of what we were talking about at the end of the thread for us, is that one of the things we're talking about is we get a lot of steady state training or a lot of 120 heart rate, but it's not necessarily all low intensity. And that's where, and I think that's the next place I'm waiting for him to repost in the thread, because obviously he's saying that weight training isn't the same as running from a cardiovascular standpoint. But I look at it and think, well, what about hopping and jumping and skipping and medicine ball throwing and running a short sprint? Does that fall under the same category as weight training? My feeling is that there's a continuum here like there is with everything, and I don't know if we've done enough research. I don't know if we've looked hard enough at a lot of this stuff to be able to speak in absolutes, and maybe that also speaks to me in terms of I shouldn't speak as much in absolutes. But I think one of the things that we're throwing out there, and that I've done and that Devin McConnell has done and some other guys have done, is that, wait a second, we are getting more cardiovascular work. Now, whether or not it is that kind of low intensity that maybe you do need for cardiac output, I don't know. And then this is where I said I think I need to become even more well-versed. I think I'm well-versed, but probably I would still say in the area of the cardiac adaptation to training, I would not consider myself to be an expert.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, doesn't this make monitoring really doesn't it make you want to take a little bit more look at monitoring? Because even in your product, even in complete sports conditioning, it was kind of nice to see those numbers. But, you're basically in a lab there. You could, you have all these people. You could be, and, I think you talked about this when we were talking about the research, that, it is valid. Remember what they were saying, like all this research that technically you are doing, it's important.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's interesting. And I think you're right, because one of the things I'm going to talk about in our staff meeting today is just the factor of trying to get more people to buy the MyZone piece. Because I just feel like the one thing that you do know, and this is going to sound incredibly redundant as I'm thinking it through in my head, wow, but you see what you don't see. You see, wow, look at the adaptations that are happening, or look at the responses, I guess, that are occurring to exercise that I wouldn't expect to happen. And I'll give you a really good example. I was sick I didn't go to China last week. I was sick. And my doctor basically wouldn't let me travel. But on Tuesday, I called the doctor because I didn't feel good. My stomach was bothering me. But the stranger thing was my resting heart rate was 12 beats a minute higher than it normally is.
Wow.
Every day I go in, I lay on the floor and I get my resting heart rate. And it's more like I play a game with myself because I keep trying to break 50. And I'm not sure if my unit is just set where it won't go lower than 50. I'm not really sure. But I always lay there and I kind of get to 50 and then I try to get to 49 and I can't do it. Last Tuesday, I couldn't get under 62. And I thought, that's really weird. That's never happened to me before. And it was probably indicative, obviously, of fighting off some sort of infection. Something was going on that was unusual. And so that's when you think about the value of monitoring, particularly more so in like our adult population client and our general fitness client. It really makes a big difference when you can look at somebody and think, even, hey, I've had 2 clients over time have to go for cardiac testing because of responses that we saw with our monitors. One guy is still on medication today, and this was when we very first started. I think I've told this story before, but when we very first started using monitors, he told me that his was broken because it kept going all over the place. I'm 80, I'm 120, I'm 170, I'm 80, I'm 20, I'm 70. It's all over the place. And I gave him mine. I said, "Hey, well, put mine on. I'll just wear yours." And he put mine on. And after running one more interval, he said, "Yours is broken too." No, mine is not broken, and you need to go to the doctor. And we were running. Imagine this. You think about sort of the sudden cardiac incidents that you see, and it's mostly been basketball players. But I feel like if all those guys had a heart rate monitor on and all those guys were up on the screen, I wonder how many of those guys might have lived. Where you start looking at that and thinking, whoa, that's not supposed to happen. That guy just went, 190, 120, 60, like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And we've seen it where we've looked up there on our screen. I had one of my clients, I said, you really need to go get that checked, because all of a sudden he was, he was running, doing karaoke's up and back, and he went from 110 to 180. And then it went right back down again.
Wow.
And at first I thought it's a glitch, and then another day it did the same thing. So I do think, yes, as much as I've been anti-monitoring, because I think monitoring is I always go back to the Alan Cosgrove overreaction, underreaction thing. I think monitoring is a tremendous overreaction right now. But you're talking about someone who's saying that. I've been using heart rate monitors for 20 years. So I don't think that heart rate monitoring is bad. I just think that the over-fascination with it, with all of these things, is not great. But that being said, you can tell an awful lot. You just tell what kind of shape somebody's in. All you can do is, I tell people that all the time. When guys say, I'm in better shape than this guy, I'm like, well, you got to beat him in the test and you got to beat him in the recovery. If you beat him in the test and you beat him in the recovery, then you're in better shape than he is. If you beat him in the test but not in the recovery, then we've got some questions. And, you don't win either. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're not in better shape than that guy.
Yeah, I think with you, part of it too, let's be honest, ends up being like this whole logistical idea, this nightmare of, okay, am I asking everybody questions? I mean, you have so many people coming in, and is everybody getting a monitor, and are they following through, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's almost like FMS. A lot of times, I was talking to Frank Dolan about this, and he said, a lot of times with Lee and Gray, like, they just want the data. Like, they love it when people are doing these different things, and they want the data. Bring me the data. Like, and that's what they're doing with their website. So I think sometimes, not everybody's going to do it, but if you can get a good majority of it, then you're probably ahead of the game. And yeah, I just want to wear a shirt that like tells, how much I slept, what my heart rate is, so I don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, no, and the truth of the matter is we're probably not that far away. We're probably not that far away from somebody wanting to embed a chip in you, and then everything will just download. You get up in the morning and download yourself. You'll go stick your finger in a socket, and your whole chip will download into something, and it'll tell you how long you slept and what your sleep pattern was like and what your lowest heart rate was. And I mean, we're not that far away.
No, we're not. Coach, let's talk a little bit about, there was an article, single leg lifts and or compound lifts for force production. There was a quote, I love single leg training, but if you're chasing force production, big compound lifts are still the king. We know you feel this is absolutely wrong. That's a direct quote from you on this. And you were talking about a book, Running, from, I guess, Franz Bosch in 2005. Just talking about how using the single leg load will be much more effective.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. I can't stand, and it was Mike Robertson that said it. I don't know why people say. I mean, I guess I do know why people say things like that, because that is their opinion and that is what they believe. But I just don't believe it, and I wish they wouldn't keep saying it in such an absolute way, because again, the average novice trainer reads that and thinks, oh yeah, this guy's an expert and this must be true. That is his opinion, and I guess in a lot of ways much like this is my opinion. And the difference is, I think they support that side of their opinion with other muscleheads who believe what they believe, and we support our side of the opinion with track and field coaches and people like that who believe what we believe. And sometimes that's where I always think the smart people come to the right conclusions, because you're going to look at that and think, of course, some powerlifter is going to tell you that squatting is where it's at and what it's all about, and big compound lifts are what you need. But then you look at a guy like Bosch, and he almost is laughing at us in terms of, it's like I've always said, you can't look at the back, one back and two legs, and realize that you're trying to transfer force through one spot. That has to be a problem. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There has to be a backlog. There has to be a funnel effect there. And I don't know how people can try to deny that. It's like, okay, place the load on point A, the shoulders. Make the work points point B and C, the feet, and then try to transfer it through point D. There's going to be a problem there. In any sort of physical system that you think about, there's going to be a problem there. And we show this over and over again. Devin has some incredibly powerful videos of his guys. And, sometimes you think the proof is in the pudding. One, he's putting guys in the NHL at a really amazing rate, more so than just about anybody else in the country. And they're winning at an amazing rate. And they're doing it in such a way where these guys have this absurd single leg strength. Like, literally, I would say, I'd go so far as to say unseen, unheard of, some of the stuff that his guys do. I look and think, and he's been playing around with the safety squat bar, rear foot elevated split squat, but he's got guys with 400 pounds in a safety squat bar. Wow. The videos, and I think, has he had one of those up yet? I know he had one. If not, we'll have to get one of those. Yeah. But it's, you just look at it and think, God, it just, goes back to the Einstein picture in my presentation all the time. Common sense is not very common. I don't know how people can say what they say in good conscience and feel like they've done their homework, I guess.
All right. Glad you don't have an opinion on that. Coach.
I tried to take the middle ground. Did I do an effective job?
Yeah, you did. Coach, let's just finish up. Obviously, this is another topic that you have a lot of opinions on. Youth sports, we posted an article, Youth Sports, Declining Participation, Rising Costs, Unqualified Coaches. Is it really just because of this whole pay-to-play thing that is that the main reason? Because obviously, if you're going to if the costs are raising, right, now we have more, like you obviously need coaches for all these other leagues now, right? There was never this many leagues. I know growing up playing hockey in this area, believe me, there was not the amount of leagues that there are now. It's crazy. There wasn't even this many rinks. But so obviously that kind of waters down the coaches and participation obviously is going to be more expensive. So give us an overview of this article really and your thoughts.
Well, but think about it. You've diluted the competition level and you've increased the cost.
Yeah.
Again, when you think about common sense, that's not a great formula for success. Let's have way more leagues. Let's charge way more money. Let's have way more people saying that their kid is select or elite. There was a great tweet. Steve Norris, who's a Canadian sports psych guy, was talking about the fact they have select U6 in York, Canada right now.
Jesus.
Or York, Ontario. And so you start thinking, I mean, we are in the perfect storm. You think about this whole millennial thing. So you've got a generation of people that are super entitled. You've got this early sports specialization thing because college is really expensive and people think, oh, this is the route to get my kid a college education. I'll get them a scholarship. So you've got that. And then what you've got is you're basically pricing out. You've completely priced out the lower class out of everything probably except basketball and football. I mean, that's just reality. And that's always been the case if we looked at tennis or golf. But suddenly now we've got sports like hockey and lacrosse becoming like tennis and golf, where they've become elitist. And I'm participating in it too. I think we're going to pay $1,800 this year for lacrosse for Mark. Now, what does that tell you about lacrosse? It tells you that it's not going to be an inner city sport. It tells you that you're not going to get some of these great athletes that might come from low income backgrounds to participate in these kind of activities. So I think we've got a problem that gets – the good thing is I do believe this thing – the Joe Ehrmans of the world and Positive Coaching Alliance. There's a lot of good stuff going on. I don't want to make it all negative and all doom and gloom. But at the same time, we've got people like, and I don't know if it's USA Soccer. I don't know who actually runs soccer. But they're pushing the academy program and early specialization. But you've got Greg's doing a great job at TPI, Greg Rose, pushing late specialization for golf. And USA Hockey has their ADM, and they're pushing late specialization, and we're hoping that may reverse a little bit of the trend in hockey. But you're fighting capitalism and entrepreneuring, and those are not easy things to fight, I think, as we've seen historically.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I'm listening to The Sports Gene right now, which is really good, and it's funny, that book's it's not a new book, obviously, but, he brings up so many studies about some Danish studies, some German studies about just how early specialization it's not good. It doesn't work. It's proven.
The research, everything points in the opposite direction, yet everybody is being pushed in the other direction. But what's pushing them in the other direction is the money. And you know what I mean? And as I said, it's kind of the perfect storm because of the cost of college. There's a lot of things that are in play right now, and even the increase in scholarships. There's lacrosse scholarships out there now, and there's a lot more scholarships for women out there now. So there's a lot more people chasing the scholarship idea, kind of chasing the brass ring. And every time you see somebody do it, because people are saying, "Is Mark going to get a scholarship like McKay?" And I'm like, God, I hope so, but I'm not expecting that. I'm following the same plan that I followed before in terms of he's going to specialize late. And he's not going to focus on one sport, and he's going to do well in school, and we're going to save money for college. Yeah. And that's the reality of the situation. And that if something came along, if he ends up continuing to improve and all the things that we're doing are helpful in his, I always tell him this is the time when you outwork people. And I think that's the difference. And that's what I think Sports Gene and what a lot of these things are saying is there's stuff in play besides just talent. And yes, talent matters. We talked about the number of first-round NHL picks whose fathers were NHL players. But at the same time, it is that my favorite, I told Genius and All of Us is my favorite because it's that intersection of genetics times environment. And it's almost like genetics times environment plus passion. So if you can get a kid with good genetics and put him in a good environment, I look at my kid and think they've at least got their mom's genetics to rely on. She's a decent athlete. And we've got a really good environment because we own our own strength and conditioning center. And then you hope you can instill some passion for the game in them by having them see kind of the sporting life and what people are able to do. And you hope that that's the formula for success.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Sports Gene is saying a similar thing. Yeah,
I got to go. I think I have Sports Gene on my shelf. I'm looking at my shelf right now as I'm talking to you, and I'm realizing that that's one of those ones that I skipped over Sports Gene and I skipped over Mastery, and I'm hoping that maybe on I know I have Mastery on audio, and I may try that on a ride to Clarkson when I'm by myself.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's the same thing. It's the idea that, look, it's not just, there is no 10,000-hour rule, and Erickson would tell you that anyway, but, because when they look at the studies, some people, it was the 3,000-hour rule. Some people, it was the 30,000-hour rule. So there's a genetic piece of this that they found that, no, there are, you obviously have to develop that piece, the genetics. So,
and the environment part, I watch it all the time in youth hockey. You see some of these kids. I mean, and it's been very interesting. I watch Mark, like Michaela was always better than everybody else. Always. There was never a time when she wasn't better than the kids at her age group in a general sense. Whereas I look at Mark, and he wasn't. I think he was initially like a squirt 3 or 4 his first year in Reading. So that means there were 45 kids at least better than he was in our town. Now, 4 years later, there might be 5 or 6 kids better than him in our town, maybe 7, 8, whatever it is. But he's slowly creeping up on kids who probably have not followed a similar path. And you think, over time, does he catch everybody? I don't know. That's the beauty of I always said my kids are living science experiments, and I'm 1 for 1, but 6 years if I go 2 for 2.
There you go. All right. On that note, Coach, we will let you go. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Dan. I got to get going and get myself into the staff meeting at 10. Thanks, bud.
All right. Take care. All right, guys. Right now, remember, Perform Better is having their annual summer sale. It's ending. It ends on September 30th. So it's your last chance to go get the crazy blowout prices. And it's the biggest sale of the year, and it's, again, only going on until September 30th. All the top sellers: mini bands, super bands, cook bands, test kits, Dynamax balls, rollers, kettlebells, ropes, sandbags, TRX, you name it. Prices have been slashed. Go to performbetter.com. Check out the annual summer sale.
Hey everybody, it's Rachel Cosgrove, owner of Results Fitness and Results Fitness University with the Business of Fitness segment. Let's talk about your friends. Let's talk about who you hang with. Did you know that this is a Jim Rohn quote? One of my favorite philosophers, Jim Rohn, said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So think about that. Who are the five people you spend the most time with? Start there. If you start to think about those 5 people and you think about, okay, you probably will find that, yes, you are the average of those 5 people. So, really starting to think, how can you put yourself in, a network, a circle of people that, will push you to get to that next level. I actually had someone who, a woman in the community who, I had met her at a networking event. It was like a marketing event. And she kind of latched onto me. And then I started seeing her at, different things I would do or different events. And then finally, a couple months later, she came up to me and she was like, you're one of my 5. And I realized she had purposely been trying doing everything she could to hang out with me, to be in my circle of people. And I thought, how smart is that? Like, how smart is she to really, zone in and find the people that you really want to maybe, will help you with, when I say you're the average you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, that's not just average income. That's, it's average happiness. It's average, it's their relationships. It's everything about them. So if you find out, if you meet somebody or you find somebody who you really resonate with and you feel like, wow, I want some more of that in my life, then how can you get around people like that to start to, bring your life up to that level? So I just thought that was a really strategic way to, it kind of gave me a wake-up call. I was like, that's interesting. She really made a conscious effort to surround herself with the people she wanted to surround herself with. So just, to realize, I think one of the keys to a successful business is absolutely relationships. When Alan and I look back on our business and what has been, some of the turning points or game changers for us, it's been meeting certain people, learning from certain people, building a relationship with certain people, building that connection. Everyone from magazine editors who we've become great friends with, so we become their trusted resource, to, even Anthony Renna, who owns this podcast. We wouldn't be on here if we weren't good friends with him, and I guess we might know what we're talking about as well. But, you got to start thinking about who do you want to get to know? So relationships are key. They will change the direction of your life and they will change the direction of your business. So let's just do a little homework. Number one, I want you to write down the 25 people that you know. You can start with in your community. Who are the 25 people who, you start with 25, everybody you can think of who you know. And in that network, when you start to think through your network of people, what opportunities do some of these people hold that, you might be able to do some kind of a co-promotion with, or you might be able to, find a way to work together to really grow each other's businesses. So first, make that list. Who do you know? Who do you currently hang out with? And then make a second list of who do you want to know? Who do you want to have in your circle? Who are some of the people that, you want to start to be around? Where is your perfect client? Where are they hanging out at? Where is the next person who you want? And this even goes for professional relationships. So if you are attending some of the professional conferences, if you're heading to Perform Better and, there's someone like, I will always look over who's speaking. If I'm going to an event and I'm speaking, I look up who else is speaking and how can I make sure that I can connect with that person. If there's somebody on that list that I know I want to connect with because maybe we have the same target audience, or maybe we share the same message, or maybe we both have a passion for helping women, or, so find the people who you want to meet, who you want to connect with, and be strategic with it. Strategic relationships are something that will change your game when it comes to your business, when it comes to your career, when it comes to, getting to that next level. So, who are those people you want to know, both in your community, but also maybe on a bigger scale on, in our industry. And then the last point. So first, make that list of who you know and how can you even, can make those connections even stronger and get more opportunity out of them. Number two, who do you want to know and how can you get around those people? And then last but not least, always remember when you're networking, there's no better rule to keep in mind than everybody's favorite radio station, which is WIIFM. Stands for what's in it for me. So when you are trying to build a relationship, you can't come at that networking opportunity with gimme, gimme, gimme. I want more. I need this. I need that, because you're not going to end up, we have people reach out to us all the time asking us, I need you to do this. I need you to be on my podcast. I need you to, help out with this. I need you to write this. And it's like, hang on, like what's in it for me? It's going to be when you get bombarded with, different opportunities. And if you're approaching somebody who is a busy person, you have to really think through what's in it for them. Because if you approach them with a proposal, or you approach them with, when you first introduce yourself and you have that in the back of your head and you're really thinking about how can I help this person, that's going to start that relationship off on a whole different level. So I just want to finish on that note, that as you are networking, as you are starting to really make connections, build relationships, and again, I think one of the keys to a successful business and a successful career is those relationships that you have. Really come at each relationship with how can I help this person? How can I, help grow their business? How can I help them get what they need? need. It's actually a Zig Ziglar quote: the more people you help get what they need, the more you'll get what you need. So just keep that in mind as you are really building your network. All right, gang, head on over to resultsfitnessuniversity.com to check out more about us. And you can also find us on social media on Instagram and Facebook as Results Fitness University.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach. And today I have on Mike McKay. Mike's from Wyandotte, Michigan. And he actually served 4.5 years in the Navy and then began a career in strength and conditioning. He is a member of strengthcoach.com. That's how I know about him. And he started something called the Heroes Movement, which I'm going to let him tell you all about. So, Mike, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ant.
I do, because I missed Strength Coach TV when I was in Detroit. I got to plug Detroit Thrive. So, Mike, what gym are you working out of?
Detroit Thrive, one of the Thrive licensees. We're over on the east side of Detroit. It's a great spot over there. Don Yeager and Mike Fox got a great thing going over there. Real nice facility. We even got a dome outside. It's about 150 yards by like 45 yards, so the weather doesn't slow us down. Great facility, perfectly set up, how the Thrive Gym is supposed to be set up, and it's a great space. It's awesome.
Nice. All right, well, Mike, tell us about the Heroes Movement, and just so I want to throw it out there now, we're going to have links, but it's at theheroesmovement.org to find out more. But, Mike, tell us all about the Heroes Movement, what it is, how this started. Give us a rundown.
Cool. So it started about 2 years ago. One of my buddies in Washington, California, if you're a disabled veteran, your kids can go to college for free. And one of my good friends went to college for free because his dad was stepping on a landmine in Vietnam. So 100% disabled veteran. He went to college in Washington for free, and I was living in Santa Monica at the time, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to give back for all the free college I got and everything. Let's go volunteer at the VA." And I was kind of like, "Well, I did my time. I think I'm all right." And he's like, "No man, let's go down there and volunteer." So I was thinking of what I could do to help out, be productive instead of just handing out food or something. And I was like, well, crap, I'm a strength coach. I was like, I wonder what these guys are doing after physical therapy. So I went down to the VA, went to the physical therapy department and asked. And they said, well, we just give them some exercises and send them on their way. I was like, well, they should come train with me. The lady said, well, you have to have a government contract or this, that, the other to make that happen. I'm like, okay, well, how do we do that? And she started talking about all this red tape and everything. I was like, well, this sounds like a lot of work. I was like, I'm just going to try to just do this on my own, just go in the American Legion, VFW, DAV, Wounded Warrior, and try to get stuff going. So I started training a couple of veterans for free in a gym in Santa Monica, and one of my clients was like, hey, who these guys train with you? I was like, a bunch of vets. And like, oh, that's awesome. Where'd you get them from? They're like, this, that, the other. And like, what are you doing? I'm like, just training for free. They got nowhere to go after physical therapy. And they was like, well, you should start a nonprofit. I go, what's that? Sounds non-profitable. So looked into it, and I'm like, all right, well, this doesn't seem that hard. So just came up with a name, and Heroes Movement was born off of that. Got some board members, and then that's it. So we started with our first location in Los Angeles, and the way that it can expand and grow is we've got almost 30 partners now. But I drank the Mike Boyle Kool-Aid probably in 2010. And the programs that I follow from Coach Boyle are a perfect segue from physical therapy. And also, the programs follow all the guidelines for training someone with PTSD. And I don't even think Coach Boyle knows that, but he'd probably say, hey, smart training, smart training. So we're taking into account with all the breathing exercises and, the non-competitive environment, not too intense up front, and mastery of movement, following all the guidelines. It's a perfect segue for someone with battling PTS. So we find, someone will reach out to us and say, hey, my husband did a tour in Iraq and Afghanistan, came back, it's not the same person, they're not working out. They worked out again, maybe with some other vets or just, got off their butts. I think that could be good for them. So we reach out and try to find gyms that are, I just always reach out to Strength Coach first and find like-minded gyms to partner with, and I just vet them real quick. Hey, you doing the breathing exercises, you doing this, you got the progressions, regressions, lateralizations, and if they, it's yes, then, it's kind of give them the rundown, and and then boom, we build new partners off of that. So the Strength Coach community has been great. We found the majority of our partners from Strength Coach, and then other ones, it's just, you know, going down Google pages and looking for people and like, hey, do you know who Mike Boyle is? Cool. You know, then you can pretty much be on board. So then we have an app. So the veteran will download the app, and then those guys will check in. And at the end of every month, I'll get a report that says what location did how many sessions, and then contact the gyms and say, hey, I got 23 sessions. What do you got? Oh, we got the same. Cool. And then we cut them a check for the 23 sessions. So we're only paying per session. We're not paying blindly like free gym memberships or anything like that.
Now, okay, so let's back up. So partners mean gyms. So you said you have 30 partners. You have gyms across the country now you're locating these people that, you're vetting them first. Obviously, like you said, if they know some of the functional strength coach or certified functional strength coach certified trainers, that's going to be your number one area to look for, strengthcoach.com people, just because obviously they're going to follow some of these smart things that you feel like that Coach Boyle does. So partners means gyms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And so, it's a nonprofit. Okay, now let's just back up there, because how can you sustain this in terms of, you can't be training everybody for free. I mean, you have to make some money doing something. So how does this work for you?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, well, crap. I moved home back to Michigan. I'm living with my parents right now. I mean, it is what it is. I was living in Santa Monica, and it's just expensive, and I was just taking the hit, living out there. So I wanted to be back home anyway. So I was like, you know what, no better time to race overhead than now. So I pay myself for training sessions, the ones I do in Detroit, and it's all good.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a ongoing hustle to get all the gyms paid and everything. So it's all good.
Nice. So here's how it works then, right? So you guys get donations. People can donate. They can go to theheroesmovement.org and donate, and that will go into the pool for some training, for like when these gyms who say, yeah, I can train that person, say, okay, Mike, I trained Bob 20 times, and then that's where that money's coming from.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, we so the first year we didn't do over $50,000 in donations, so we didn't have to do a 990. The 990 is a tax form that says where all the money goes. So 15 we didn't do one. And then 16 we did, and our fiscal year ended. It's weird how it was supposed to end March 31st. Our accountant just fixed it to make it end on December 31st. But so for 2016, from March 31st on to December 31st, I can't remember how much we did, but the financials are up on our website now. But we have 92 cents on every dollar that's donated is going directly to the program. So we have to, we redid the site. We're redoing it again. And then also we have to pay, there's a guy that manages the app. And then there's like just little nominal fees that we have to pay. But so 92 cents on every dollar donated goes directly to the program, paying trainers. That's all we do. We're going to keep, and we'll be able to keep our overhead low like that unless we hire a big-time grant writer fundraiser, but hopefully they would be able to pull their load in what we pay them. So we'll always keep this number around 92% as long as I have a say in things. So that's a point of pride, really, that most of the money goes to the program.
Well, will you be able to take at least some kind of livable salary from this at some point too?
As long as it stays in at 8%.
Yeah.
I don't know why the number 92 sticks out to me, but that has been the number that I've talked to the accountant with, and just our board. I'm like, people are like, we need to spend money here and there, and I go, well, let's look at what's in now, and then is it within the 8% of spending? So there's nonprofits that have been around for 6 years or so, some veteran nonprofits, and they're pulling in $4 million a year, and I think we can get to those numbers within the next few years, because the amount of people we're helping and how often we can help them, I really firmly believe we can be the most impactful veteran nonprofit in the next few years, because we got guys that train 16 times a week. So we're seeing them more than half the month. There's other nonprofits out there that get together, once a month, and some people don't even go to like some of the functions. They're members. So we're touching some lives up to 50% of the month. And some guys we see twice a week, and sometimes we see 3, and sometimes only guys come in once. But I really think we can have a huge impact on the veteran community.
Oh, you said 16 times a week. You meant 16 times a month, right?
A month.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mike, just so people know too, just because again, I mean, let's say I said, okay, you can send them to my gym. I want to do this. And people start out with good intentions, and, let's say it's 10 sessions a week, but then it starts to blossom. Let's say I live in an area where there's a lot of vets. Can somebody, I hate to even say this, but can somebody make a living with what you guys are paying, or is it just something that they can do kind of part-time? They're obviously trying to help out as well, but what kind of pay scale are you giving them? Because certain areas are more expensive than the others, et cetera.
Yeah, we've pretty much been $15 across the board. So in California, people are taking a hit, and then, out east, Detroit Thrive, I was looking at the prices, and I was kind of joking with some of my friends, like, crap, I should look at the prices. I was like, if someone did unlimited at their gym, it's like $15 per session. I was like, we're paying right on par. But it's just easier to go 15 across the board. Can someone make a living off of it? I would say no. Is it a good supplemental income to add on to your gym and make you look good in the community? I would say yeah. If Heroes Movement is your only form of revenue in your gym, well, I would say that's probably not right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys are just adding on to it, and these gym owners still have to follow up and hustle. They still have to sell these guys, even though it's free. I think that's one of our biggest problems. I was just saying that earlier is, there's no money. They're not paying any money, so they don't feel, they don't feel like a loss when they don't come in. So it's on the owners or the trainers to follow up and hustle and sell them on it too, because they can grow the business and it can be a nice little side income. Like for instance, our partner in Syracuse, New York, Strides CNY, they do like 130 sessions. I mean, we're paying them almost $2,000. So.
Wow.
They're rocking.
Bottom line is they're doing a great thing too. That's and I think a lot of the gym owners, I mean, a lot of people who own a gym start out a gym too because they want to help people, and this is certainly a way to do it. I'm sure most of the people have it. Just they don't have too many in one area, just because that's just the way it normally is, unless you're located near a VA.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, we're only in 30 spots. So, I mean, we're conscious not to like step on any toes in any other areas. So, we don't have any rules in our bylaws about how, close one can be to another.
Yeah.
It's just really what's convenient for people. And, we just have a conversation with the owner, like, hey, man, they don't feel like driving 15 minutes. They want to drive 5. So, I mean, that situation hasn't come up. But, I mean, we just talk about it and, go from there.
Cool. Mike, let's talk about training some of these veterans, because obviously this is you're probably going from the full spectrum of different injuries, some obviously worse than others, some dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. So talk to me about some of the common things that a trainer can expect when they kind of sign on with you guys.
Well, first off, we are all ages, all eras. So we're not post 9/11 in Los Angeles. Before I moved, when he's still training there, he's Dr. Martini. He's a Navy doc. He was in World War II and Korea. So you can get someone as old as 92, and you can get a total ass kicker that just got back from Afghanistan, got out at 22. The most common injury is our knee injuries, just rucking around with heavy gear. That's the most common injury, and guys just. They let it radiate up to their back. A lot of times, just tight ankles, those boots, everyone's just lacing them up really tight and just getting that artificial support. So we get a lot of ankle stuff, which translate to the knee, joint by joint, just keeps on going up. So mostly knee issues, but we get the ankles loosened up and a lot of that stuff goes away. With the PTS, we never ask if anyone has PTS. We follow the guidelines. by it. When we first started doing the PRI breathing, we had balloons, and then one popped, and one guy, a couple guys were like, oh, crap, just looked over there real quick. I'm like, yeah, you know what, we're done with the balloons. So we eliminated that. That was kind of stupid on my behalf, but hey, lesson learned.
Mike, wait, I want you to go over those guidelines. When you say you follow the guidelines, what are those guidelines?
So the guidelines are you have to work on breathing every single session. Now with the PRI stuff, it's perfect. We're doing a PRI is to in the beginning of the session is get the ribs and the pelvis, sitting on each other like a bowl, get the pelvis in neutral and all that good stuff. But it's also, besides restoring diaphragmatic breath, which is a big stabilizer in the core, it's also stimulating the parasympathetic system and the central nervous system. And a lot of times if guys are getting kind of anxious or antsy or aggravated, one of the first things the psychologist is going to tell them, and if any guy goes to PTS therapy, one of the first things a therapist teaches them is diaphragmatic breathing and restoring that parasympathetic system. So we work on that every session in the beginning, and during the cool down we do it too. But it's important in the beginning. We do the PRI stuff, and we'll always explain why we're doing it for the the diaphragm, and then also for the parasympathetic system. So, and also, one of the other guidelines is we always tell all the gyms that we have to have a spot for a guy to go chill in case they are getting riled up or something. Like, hey man, you can go hang out over here. Let me know if you need me. So remember the breathing, and go take your time, whatever you need to do. So some of the things that can trigger people are frustration. So if you don't have mastery of movement, you got to have mastery of movement. Walk into some gym and they're like, okay, well today we're doing a clean and press. You've never cleaned and pressed before, but that's some first day shit. Some gyms, a guy might get frustrated, yada yada yada, get anxiety and turn to anger. So none of that. Can't be competitive environments in the beginning. So eventually guys will get to know each other, get some good banter between the branches going, and then step it up. But in the beginning, I don't want to say holding hands might not be the right thing, but you got to take it easy. And the exercise can't be too intense is the other one. So, the mastery of movement, non-competitive environment, not too intense, and work on the breathing, and have a spot to chill. Those are the 5. I think I said all 5. But, so those are guidelines we follow. Like I said, we never ask. We just follow those.
Okay. And so this is what you're talking to some of the gym owners when you're talking to them about this program, about if they're going to work with the guys.
Yep, exactly. So we always, start, hey, Mike Boyle, yeah, are you doing the breathing exercises? And, some people are, some people aren't. But then we say, well, this is why we're doing it. Do you mind implementing them? Because that's a requirement. And they're like, oh, yeah, man, whatever you got to do, blah, 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 blah. So, gym owners and trainers are super receptive because all the people we reach out to are super pumped to work with veterans. So, they're like, hey, man, whatever it needs. So I always shoot over that Ron Hruska video, the 1990 hip lift with balloon. It's way too detailed for what we do, but it's, it's kind of like we just do real close to it. So just give them the in-depth video, and then they kind of, just go from there.
Nice.
Yeah, but everyone's real receptive.
Yeah. So what other things that, when they're coming in, are you dealing mostly with guys, just mostly with guys who are in the service and have come out and you're just offering this service, obviously, or are you working a lot with kind of how much of it is like kind of out of guys who got injured in maybe in combat or while they were in the service? How much of it is that?
Well, it's all. Most of these guys are all service connected. So service connected means your injury is connected to your service. So a lot of these guys are in the VA hospitals, and every VA that we're around, I'm around. West Los Angeles, I plastered Heroes Movement flyers all over physical therapy department. And that was our biggest referral giver right there. Was just one flyer right there in the waiting room for physical therapy. That got us so many people. So all of our guys, the people that come to us are the people that are hurt. We rarely, like the guys are really healthy, they're probably still real competitive, and then they go do whatever they're going to go do, whatever kind of, CrossFit or whatever. A lot of guys do that, and it's cool, but people come to us that need us. So that's where our, that's that's our big thing. Our mission statement, elevator pitch is Heroes Movement is bridging the gap from therapy, whether it's mental or physical, to getting strong again through small group strength and conditioning sessions. So the majority, I would say 90% of the people there are in some sort of therapy, whether it be mental or physical, and they get referred out to us or they hear it through friends, vet centers, VAs. So that's literally probably 95% of the people that come see us.
Yeah, and so like if you hook somebody up, like I hooked you up with Chris Cooper out at AMP training in Massapequa Park. Now, are you also hooking, kind of connecting physical therapists that's working with that person with them as well?
No, we haven't done that. But yeah, I try to network as much as I can. But like with that case, I was hoping Matthias, he's actually the first bilateral amputee to become a police officer. So he's got a pretty strong veteran network. So kind of the hope is whenever, guys get going to the gyms, whoever their veteran network is, I always hope that they bring their veteran network in to come train after the gym owners get them sold. So hopefully, some of their physical therapists, they can refer out too. But so for the far as physical therapy thing goes, it's hard to get a physical therapist on the phone and then start talking shop with them. That's why I do it in person. That's why I did West LA, and then I literally was just at the Detroit VA like an hour before this call over there, and I'm going to be talking to them October 16th, I think, whatever the date is. So I'm making a pitch to them. So that's the only physical therapist I get in front of, really.
Okay, yeah, and then the strength coach or the trainer can reach out. I mean, that's obviously what I always did. If somebody came to me, I made sure I talked to the therapist first anyway to see what was contraindicated or from the physical injury perspective. So, so are there cases where maybe you feel like this might be out of the scope of what we're doing as well from the PTS, from the post-traumatic stuff involved?
From the PTS side, no, because I firmly believe a strong body creates a strong mind. The guys that are really, 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 really far off, they're not getting out of the home. They're just, it's, Wounded Warrior is actually, Wounded Warrior Project actually has a program now to where they are going into guys' homes that family members are saying, hey, this guy needs to get out, and the guy's not getting out, or guy or gal is not getting out, and they're going in there and they're doing 30-day exercise programs, some sort of wellness program, which is amazing. And we're actually just in Los Angeles and in Detroit, they didn't want to inundate us, but they're going to start referring people. Well, we're in their network right now, so just for Detroit and Los Angeles to be the next step for those guys too, and guys that are transitioning out of the military. So some of the guys, I'm not really worried about any of the PTS guys that we get in, because those guys are, I don't want to say more motivated, but they're taking the steps towards recovery. So I'm not worried about any of that stuff.
All right, good stuff. Mike, you have a fundraiser coming up for Veterans Day in November. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Veterans Day, Saturday, November 11th. There's another great veteran nonprofit out there called Team Red, White, and Blue, and they've been partnering up with CrossFit and doing, can't remember what workout it is. I'm sure it's named after somebody. And it's usually bananas, and we all know what CrossFit's all about, just taking it, to the limit, maybe too far. So we decided to come up with a self-limiting workout, and it's nothing too crazy at all. We got 3 self-limiting exercises we're doing. We're doing a farmer carry with 75% of your body weight, or if you're really overweight, you can do it at your fighting weight for distance. So as soon as you drop them, record the distance. We're going to do a bear crawl with a yoga block or cone on the small of your back. As soon as you lose it, you record the distance, and then do a med ball toss with a 6-pound medicine ball, any technique you want for distance. We're trying to have all the gyms we partner with do it. We just sent out a note on Facebook to all the Thrives. So we're just asking for a $20 participation donation, and just trying to get as many people on board with that as possible, even if they're not even trained veterans. And so, yeah.
Cool. So, Mike, let's say I want to do this. I could even start right now. I could just have people doing it tomorrow and start collecting, right? Obviously, well, the idea is to do it on that day, but if people can't do it on the day, they could do it beforehand. But do you have a website? I mean, do you have a place on your website or anywhere that somebody can go to for this, or where can they sign up for it?
That's just with each gym. they can donate on the site, but for us to kind of like handle all the locations, it'd be kind of overwhelming. So we're just going to kind of put it on the gym owners. If a gym owner wanted to do it and kind of throw it together, that we would really appreciate it.
Cool. So it's like an inter-gym, like it's a competition kind of within your own gym. That's how you can really, frame it as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, very cool. And that is, again, for November 11th. And, what you can do is you can set this up, and we're going to have Mike's email, a link to Mike's email as well, and obviously a link to the site. So you guys can ask him or find more about this day, about this. Mike, what are you calling it?
It's it's Veterans Day Workout Challenge.
The Veterans Day Workout Challenge, and how to donate. Mike, how can trainers get involved with what you're doing?
Well, if they're, I even forgot to mention FMS. We look for FMS or some sort of movement assessment. But if you're following, if a trainer or gym's following Coach Boyle's programs or something similar, you got your progressions and regressions. You're working on the breathing. You're doing some sort of assessment. And you think you're in line with the guidelines that I spoke about earlier, then we'd be more than happy to have you. The only challenge is money. We only expand per need, so we only expand when someone else reaches out to us and say, hey, I got a veteran friend that's in a bad place, and I think working out is what they need. So then we make it happen. We definitely, if gyms want to get on board and they want to, we're more than open to fundraising ideas locally. We reach out to local American Legions, but you can't stick out your hand with those guys immediately. You got to get a couple of veterans to join the post, and then it's like a 3-month process. Advertise to them that they can come in there and join, and then after that, you can kind of stick your hand out and say, hey, can we get a donation? So that's what we're encouraging a lot of the guys to do, is join the American Legion's VFWs so we can start going after local donations. So it really comes down to money, Ant. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Grant cycle's coming up in the fall. I'm meeting with another grant writer on Wednesday. We're going for 4 grants. So we just don't have all the money in the world to just expand super fast. But if Jim wants to get on board, and they want to help us do some fundraising locally, fantastic.
Very cool. You guys are doing some really great stuff, Mike. It's kind of I love all this stuff, and obviously you're donating a lot of your time, and to kind of make sure these guys are taken care of. You have a great advisory board that you've set up as well. So you really set this thing up to really create something great here. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And we will have links to all your stuff. So if anybody wants to get involved, they can contact Mike. And always looking for different gyms throughout the country. That's how this all started. So, Mike, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate the time.
Hi, this is Frank Dolan for the Functional Movement Systems segment. And today we'll be talking about the fundamental capacity screen. This is our 3rd installment to the series, and really the importance for us to follow a process. At the risk of getting too close to the business of fitness segment, I want to stress that it's not only going to help your business and your practice, but ultimately result in what I think is really important for results, and I think you probably do as well, and that's the compliance. So having the soft systems in your testing process, whether it's the FMS, FCS, or whatever other system you might use, to develop clients' compliance towards the corrective exercise that you are prescribing. So it's really hard to set efficient results for what people want if we're not testing people on the way in. So, and then with that being said, I think it's really tough if we just test people and give them corrective exercises without the importance behind it and the belief systems behind it, and even a little bit of tap into the culture that you're trying to create in your setting. It's just as important and just as really tough to get the compliance if you're not doing that part. So this starts with a really great setup. One thing I keep saying to our coaches is that we really want to be in a position where we're spending whatever amount of time it takes with our people when they come in, whether it's through the screening process, talking through their goals, really what the why is behind why they're with us, to really get them started in the right way. This way they get a great understanding of what we're doing with the FMS and FCS, as well as how that ties into the things that they're doing. It really doesn't matter to me if that takes 30 minutes or 2 hours and what time of day it is. I think the long-term compliance and obviously having people retain and be with us in the gym is going to be represented in the amount of caring and the time that we take up front with people. So here are some of the steps that we're using with the FCS in our facility. Whenever we can, and especially our semi-private clients and some private clients, we want to make sure that we're doing that one-on-one. It's obviously going to work better that way. But for some of our groups and teams, this process of having 3 people go through the screen works really efficiently and well. So I'm going to give you kind of the checklist that we have for that. And I think it's important to get obviously if you have a staff, getting them on board with this process. It's almost like the checklist manifesto. Obviously that's something that in this industry we talk about a whole lot at Atul Gawande's book, and making sure we're doing the same thing every time so you have that consistency and reliability across the test, as well as the experience that each client gets when they come in. So step 1, we want to make sure the testing apparatus is set in advance. It's amazing to me to see sometimes if a coach is getting the kit ready while there's 3 athletes standing there, and that's something that we definitely would want to get ahead of. Step 2, it's great to greet all the participants at the door, knowing the names of the participants and stressing the importance of that. Again, these are those soft systems that's going to help you get that more compliance and more buy-in. We better know their names. And if the opportunity is there to introduce them to other staff members, clients, and other participants who they may or may not know in the facility. A lot of, in our situation, we're in a town where a lot of the athletes know each other, and making some kind of connection where they may know somebody from that community. I think that's important. Step 3 is we explain that we're going to begin as soon as everyone there is in attendance and the appointment time starts. We want to start as close to on time as possible, really getting, we don't want to have late starts become a habit with the groups. And then step 4, obviously we want to get all the information, whatever that is for you. For us, it's first name, last name, date of birth, height, weight, and testing date is real important to make sure that we're comparing the date. I know these things seem very simple, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen this happen where people are not getting the dates of screens down, and that does affect how we're prescribing and how we look back at data. And then step 5, when all participants have arrived for the appointment and the time has come to bring them out to the testing area, we want to explain the apparatus, let them know what the test is going to be about, maybe kind of direct them to some of the other things in the facility. It's a great time to showcase some of the things you have. If maybe it's a free screen for a team or group that you're trying to promote to. Step 6, we want to give them a simple, super simple actually, version of why we do the FMS and FCS. So, we don't want to get into the deep science here, just the real basic headlines of why we're doing each test. So basically looking at mobility or range of motion, stability or motor control, and talking about work capacity a bit, explosiveness, and to store and release energy. I think athletes can grasp onto that in clients. If you start going into the details there, it could, first of all, take way too long, and you're just going to get, people that are maybe a little bit confused when they get started. So step 7, we want to be able to provide some clarity about what the test isn't, and that it's not about perfection. This way we're not trying to compete to get a better score on this, but we're really trying to get an idea of what the cut points are and really where we want to, that we want to collect this data to help them and prioritize their programming. What's going to be their biggest weak link? What's going to be the priority when they start training with us? And then we have just some basic ground rules that we lay out in step 8, which is making sure we stay in the same order the entire assessment if we're screening multiple athletes, selecting the person who looks or seems the most responsible or like a leader to go first, critical that they're paying attention and ready to go right away. This way we can make sure we get the 3 athletes screened within the hour, and being ready when they're about to go next, paying attention, right? If you don't say these things up front with the athletes, it's going to be you're going to be constantly reminding them and trying to move things along quickly. We want to have them hold questions till the end so we can get the coach to focus on just getting the numbers and scores down, and no more than 3 trials on each test for the group screen to make sure that we're not doing any extra reps on anything. This is, I think, a really, really efficient way to get multiple athletes screened at one time. I think some of these apply to when you're screening someone one-on-one. This is the way we're doing it now. It doesn't mean that we're going to change. I think having a process and having a system like this is going to help you, because then you know what you need to change. This is by no means where we're going to end with setting up our processes. We're going to constantly keep getting better. Problem is, if you don't have a process, you're not going to be able to improve it, especially if you have multiple coaches screening, because you don't have any set standard operating procedure to go through this. So start with maybe some variation of this, or start with this and move forward from there and make changes as you see fit. I'm sure this is not going to be how we're doing it in a year's time. So this has been hopefully helpful for you. This has been the Functional Movement System segment with Frank Dolan, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 216 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Special thanks to Chris Poirier and the folks over at Perform Better. Remember, the annual summer sale is ending on September 30th. Guys, make sure you get over there. This is their biggest sale of the year. Ends on September 30th. Go to performbetter.com, check out all their products and info on their educational seminars. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Mike McKay for sharing their thoughts and insights and philosophies into the world of strength conditioning, performance enhancement. Make sure you check out the Heroes Movement. If you can't help out with your training, please go and donate. Rachel Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Frank Dolan and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. And of course, remember, you can try strengthcoach.com out for 3 days, just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Paul. He's on every day. Don't forget, we're doing a new Q&A twice a month with Coach Boyle about all kinds of forum topics, so you can jump on that and as a member and ask Coach Boyle your questions. To access that offer, go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. My name's Anthony Rana. Make sure you go to continuefit.com to sign up for my Success Series, 5 audio interviews on success in the fitness business. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.